How are we doing today?
Good, we're doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How's Blue?
He's doing really good. We actually that was him. We actually were able to meet with a group of friends that he hasn't seen in a long time, and I was kind of worried because they're younger kids, and he did phenomenally with them. He was very happy to see them and very calm. He wasn't overexcited and didn't jump on the kids or anything, and it
Okay.
was really good experience.
Okay.
Not here though. It's on
Yeah, it was on their
Their
property, not
property.
his. So
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. That's normal. I mean, with any dog. I mean, some dogs are fine no matter where they are, right?
right.
But yeah, no, that's good. Um, anything else?
Um, our neighbor has been able to kind of let him sniff through the fence, and like has actually been able to come up to the fence and into our house without Blue freaking out, which is a
Okay.
huge step. Yeah.
Is this Blue like loose in the yard and your neighbor comes into your yard while he's in the yard and then into the house with him, or?
No, it was through the front door. We kind of did like a practice round trying to do the whole threshold thing, and
Right.
Blue didn't charge the door. He listened to us. And the neighbor hasn't been able to like pet him or anything yet, but
But
no,
he didn't come in the house.
he came kind of.
Not he didn't come like through the front door, but he came to the door.
Oh,
Okay. So you've gotten up to the door essentially.
yeah.
Was it just one time, or did you do it a few times?
It was a couple times, but on the same afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay.
We have somebody else coming over about like somebody who he's never met before,
Mm-hmm.
coming over about 4:15.
Okay. So
So
yeah, we'll do a quick kind of recap, um, just so we're on the same page. So they're gonna knock, ring the doorbell, try to make it as organic as possible. They just wait. What we don't want is that they keep ringing or knocking. Okay.
mhm.
They do it one time, whatever, one instance of it, and then they just wait for you to address Blue.
Okay.
Now, when you've addressed Blue, what's his number been in the previous times?
About 32. But as we were working with the cat a little bit, and it got up to like 45. So, it usually just depends on how excited he is.
I think you should take the computer and show Jesse like how it looks coming through the
Yeah,
front door.
Sure, let's take a quick look.
Because our house is laid out kind of weird, so that's one of the things we wanted to talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, let's take a quick walk.
yeah.
We'll show you as we come in through like the front door. I don't think we have to go all the way out.
The issue is you come.
So, like, you come straight in, and then there's like the wall, and then when you turn right, that's where like the house opens up.
Sure.
So we've kind of made like this. It's hard to like really describe, but this right here, the threshold
Sure.
where the wall opens up.
Uh-huh.
But then they can't really like come into the house as much because then there's nowhere really to block him off from here since it's just a giant room.
Right. So he's gonna be muzzled today?
Yes.
Okay. Is he already muzzled?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So let's go and grab that. And then as you're fitting him, I'll talk about how we'll. So that it was essentially the door right behind you, and then there's just those two openings there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the next opening would be like into where like the kitchen goes, which is this kind of like small hallway right here.
Sure.
But from the front door, I can't see over that way.
Okay. Yeah. So no worries. That'll work out. So let's go ahead and get him set up so that we're not caught off guard, and I'll explain how that works once you're ready. Okay.
Okay. She's doing that right now.
Is she out there? I don't know.
No, you're texting her.
I don't see her. Maybe I'll see where she's at.
Did you put this through his collar?
No, I didn't.
sorry. We should have put this on beforehand.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I know. He was just looking at the camera at you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think he heard your voice.
He's like, he went from being at the park to being in my home?
Yeah. And then you said if he does try to get this off, I should correct him using the remote?
Yeah, so best way to get him over that is by walking him with it on. Because typically dogs will fight it then, and then they can only do one thing at a time. So he's either going to try to fight it, or you can force him to walk. And I got a couple of videos that I could send you if needed, where we had that happen during the training session. And then let's go ahead and slap a leash on him just in case.
A leash?
Yeah. And then I'm assuming he's already got the e-collar on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on and working. And then she is pulling in now. So I'm guessing he'll notice her car pulling in. That's what he usually notices first. It's not even the door. It's just the sound of the tires on the driveway.
Okay. So you can let his leash drag. Because it's just there in case you need to step on something.
Right.
Is he trying to fiddle with the muzzle there?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and drop the leash and we'll see what happens. So, technically, once he's backed up into that...
He just left.
Okay. So go ahead and do what you're going to do, okay?
Go into the door. He's waiting.
Yeah, so approach the door.
You put Ivy outside, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So he's already figured it out.
Yeah, he's already waited back there.
Right, so what you're going to do, because you still can't let your guest in, though.
Right.
Okay, so go ahead and face towards Blue.
Okay.
And give a couple of taps, just where you're at.
Right, now he came towards me.
Okay, yeah, now tap him, and then use your body to push him back a little bit. Where'd he go?
Right. He was just trying to paw the muzzle off a little bit, but now he's standing back.
Okay. How far back did he go?
I don't know if you can see here.
Okay.
He's only a foot in front of me.
Okay, so tap. Yeah, get in front of him. Tap. 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 Hold right there. Good. So he gave space. Now where is he at?
Now he's struggling with the
Okay. So then,
in the middle of the living room.
okay. So give him a tap here. See what happens. Yep. And then tap again. Tap. 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 Bump your number about 8 levels. There you go. All right. And he just barked right there, right?
Yeah.
Was that a frustration bark from the remote, or is that just a bark?
No, it's just a bark right now. I think he's confused.
Okay. So go ahead and turn around. We're gonna go to the door.
The other dog is outside too, so she's kind of whining right now.
Now, yep. Tap. 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 Go ahead and lift the computer up a bit, please. Okay, and what's your number at now? You're at 35?
Yeah.
Let's go to 40 just in case. And you're gonna stand where you are and just tap right now, okay? So tap. That's all right. So that's a barking response to the caller. Let's go back down. Let's go down to 28. And then you can turn away and back to the door. See what happens. Good. And you're going to just fiddle with the handle. Okay. So now we'll go ahead and have your guest come in now. Listen for Blue, but if he starts running, you want to put yourself between Blue and your guest, okay?
Okay.
And then you're going to just come to that threshold, hold right there. Yep, your guest comes in. And then, yeah, you want to be turned sideways like you are. You're just ready to confront him in case he starts charging when he sees your guest. Okay.
Yeah, he can't see her yet, but she is inside.
Okay, so let's go and have her come towards where she's in view. Is that grumbling?
Growling.
Okay, so go ahead and turn towards him. Tap, tap, and go ahead and back away. Yep, and you can turn away. So he grumbled when she came into view, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go ahead. We're gonna go up to 35. And what's his posture looking like?
He's sitting, but he is very like focused on where she is.
Okay, yeah, let's get a little closer. I can see his face. All right.
Did you see him?
Yeah, I see him. A little Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's, I don't know, like.
It's a good distance.
they're
Yeah.
good distance.
So what you're gonna do here is your guest is gonna just cross over that threshold, and you're right there in the middle, but you're not facing blue. Okay. You're in the middle to intercept him in case he tries the charge. Okay, that's good right there. Right, and he's still just sitting there, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
he is kind of looking away at some points too.
Okay, so let's have your guest move in that space that's in front of you. It's like, was that like a living room space?
Living room space. We have to go like through there.
Yeah, through the couches there. Right. Good. Just move around. Be free. Hi, guest. How are you?
This is Danny.
Yeah. Now turn to face him. Tap.
Why aren't you on that side? Like in case he.
There you go. That's good. Okay. So he started moving or something, right? And then you remoted him and he yipped.
Yep.
Okay. So he's still a little bit edgy. So he's not as passive as I would have liked him to have been, but I think it's really because of that muzzle. But it's not. It's no big deal. So what we're doing here is go ahead and turn away from him. And then what's your guest doing now?
She's just standing in the middle.
Okay. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable.
She's like, oh yeah. Danny's like, sure.
All right. And then what's the blue doing? He's just sitting there?
Sitting there, but he is watching her.
His ears look like to be, now he's panting. His ears look like to be moving a little bit. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And let's go ahead. Is there a spot right there in the room that'll kind of give a view of everything, but you can still hear me, possibly?
It might be up there.
Like this?
No, you can't be holding it up.
I can.
It's good exercise.
You're gonna look at the screen to make sure. I can't see it from here. You have to make sure that you can see it.
That's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like this, that little couch we use as his place.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay, yeah. So if something you can set, so because what I would like you guys to do is just sit down and relax, and we'll see what blue does.
Okay, I'm gonna sit.
Okay, there you go.
You're at the floor again, Mom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see.
You guys have a nice floor, though. I'll just let you know.
Thank you.
So, okay, a few things here. That wasn't too bad. That was pretty good. He wasn't as de-escalated as I would have liked him to have been, but I think that's really partially because of the muzzle.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And Annie has never been in the house before. Like she is, we know her, but she's a legit house stranger.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering.
She got drafted from her mother, who's my good friend. So.
Oh, really? So, that worked. All that was just fine. Okay. Now, as you work on this, it should get better and more smoother. But definitely, I think walking him with the muzzle and having him wear it in the home from time to time, for like 30 minutes to an hour or whatever. And definitely any walk that I would do with the muzzle. It's just more exposure to get him over it faster. Okay, so that it just becomes something that's on him, and it's not a factor of frustration for him, because he has a couple of stressors. He has the stressor of your guest coming over, and then he has the stressor of the muzzle, and then he has the stressor of the e-collar. So all these things together can alter things a bit. But otherwise, that worked out just fine.
Okay.
We're at the floor again.
Mom.
I'm trying. Sorry.
um,
Knock it off.
so some things to keep in mind is so he learned the threshold, right? That's not uncommon. But even though he was holding behind the threshold, you still don't let your guest in because he was still in that agitated state. He just learned if I stay back here, nothing happens, right? Is he trying to sneak around here?
No,
No, I'm just trying to get her to put it on
she doesn't like my photography skills.
Okay, no, that's good. I can see everything. I can see everybody, and then I can see a little bit of the floor, a little bit of the walls. It's good. Um, so oh yeah, so you back them up. I like how you have it. You know, it's not too bad, but you can always command more space. Okay, so your general threshold is of course behind that line, but if you were to be waiting right at the threshold of that line as your guest is coming, like you're gonna get an issue there. Okay,
Right.
so you can always command more space, but it becomes more of a general back away. Like this is the line, right? That wall there with that opening, but then when you come in, it's like okay, I'm gonna need more distance than this for my guest. Okay, and you can even make it because there like I think it comes like going down like to the right there. There's like another opening, correct?
Yeah, and that's where I was thinking, like, is it possible for him to have one threshold for when I'm answering the door and then another threshold for when I actually bring a guest in?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. You can really alter this how you need it. Because I was thinking one would be, you have the first opening where the guest comes in, right? Well, they come in the
Right.
door, then they come in, now they're in the living room. But then I saw like an opening over here, like if they were to keep coming in on the right, right? Yeah, exactly, right there where the stairway is. So where that hall begins, so you don't have to flush them behind that technically. You can also just make where that wall begins going across the living room a threshold.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So instead of, because ultimately you'd have to back them up again, right?
Right.
Is I would actually on the get go flush them back past the first opening, past that second threshold, but this way when you turn in, you still have visual of them, okay? Because the only thing about putting him around the corner right off the bat is then you don't have visual of him.
Yeah, exactly. Because then I don't know if he's like moved into the living room and I just didn't see him move into the living room or if he's still maintaining the threshold. That
Right.
was what my fear was the first time we kind of did this.
Sure. So that line, you know, for you, it goes across the room, and he will learn that. Okay. In the beginning, he might loop around and make a U and then end up in the space that you're in right now. So
Yeah.
then you would just cut in and then flush him back in that space again past that second line. Okay. And dogs are really good about learning thresholds. It's just a matter of the human remembering where the line is, because you'll see like he might try to play it where he's like got one paw over the line, just
Right.
playing that boundary game. Um, but all that stuff is normal in the beginning. Like when I told you tap him initially and then he flushed forward, right? Was
Yeah.
because even though he was holding back mentally, he still wanted to charge the door. And when you tapped him, it unlocked that. Okay, so that's why he moved forward. And then you cut in front of him, you kept tapping him, you backed him off, you got him to turn around, that was all good. Then you went back to your door, and then when you went back to your door, he right away ran towards the door again, right?
Yeah.
Because he was still interested. So then you turned around again, you flushed him back. He went back, you went to the door, you opened the door, your guest comes in, we double checked, where is he at? I think he was still holding. And then your guest came over to view, right? So now he had a visual, and then he started grumbling. Okay, so now the whenever you're facing blue, you're doing one of two conversations. The first conversation was I need you to give space and back away, okay, and that's to turn off territorial behavior or to de-escalate overstimulated behavior because maybe it's someone he like really likes and he's very excited. Okay. So it's the same exercise for both. It's just his response to either person is going to be different. So Once you turned it off and he saw your guest and he triggered again, so he went from like, a 0 to 3 or something. And
Right.
when you turn to face him, don't always feel like you have to go right in front of him. Okay? So he could be 10 feet away from you. Let's say you're facing one way and Blue's over here growling, and all I need to do is turn, and now I'm facing Blue and tap him from 20 feet away. Okay? Because it's kind of like growing up. If I was doing something I shouldn't, my mom would give me a look. And she didn't have to be in the room, right? She could be in the kitchen, or she could be, in the living room or whatever, and she'd just give me a look. And then I knew to stop what I was doing. It's the same thing for Blue here, except that tap closes that distance. Okay? So you'll be in his face when you need him to move, because you have to use, physical. But eventually you'll find that you'll turn to Blue and you'll tap him, and without even moving on your part, he'll just turn around and back away 10 feet because of that forward body language. The tap is what's making him surrender space. And then once he sees your guest and maybe he becomes growly or something, you would confront him again, but not in his face. You're just looking at him, giving him direct forward confrontational body language, and you give that tap. And that conversation is, I disagree with what you're doing right now. Okay? Because the first one was, I don't need you over here. I need you over there, and you need to chill out. But then he started to escalate again. But he's technically behind the threshold. So then I look at him again and I tap him, and that conversation is simply, I don't want you to growl, I don't want you to bark, I don't want you to stare, whatever it is. But that forward body language is super important here. Okay? Then once he gives you what you want, you turn your body away, because that turns off the pressure for Blue. Okay, so it's like, I've seen some clients, like, they're going to scold the dog, and like they'll kind of move towards them, and the dog will shrink away and give submission. And then the owner will walk right over and tower over the dog, and I'll go, you need to stop that, because you're going overboard. Okay, so you're doing enough to get him to make him respond, but as soon as he responds, you stop pursuing, you stop tapping, and you wait, and you go, what are you gonna do next? And then maybe he stops and he turns around and he growls again. Then I take a step closer and I tap, and he moves away, and I see, what are you gonna do now, right? Because if he gives you what you're looking for and you keep pursuing him, he doesn't know what you're looking for, because you kept chasing him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like being punished for being yelled at for something, and then you get the point. You're like, okay, I'm sorry, whatever, I didn't get it, and then they keep yelling at you. It's too much. So you want to, as you start to see Blue become more receptive to this exercise, and you're gonna see, like, you're just gonna turn towards him. You'll tap him once, and he'll go back 10, 15 feet. You don't need to do anything.
Okay.
He did all the work, right? But in the beginning, you have to, because he does. For the past few weeks, e-collars meant come to me, walk at my side, put your butt down, things like that. Is that he might jump into obedience mode. So then you're using your body and you're pushing him away as you're tapping to tell him, like, this isn't about obedience right now, buddy. This is about you needing to clear space. Okay, and then once he gets that concept, it's going to be very simple, and you'll start to see him, with one tap and forward body language, give you a lot of space, and you always wait to let him settle first. Okay, let him finish the response, and if he still looks intense, or if he's grumbling, you could take a step closer to create more confrontational pressure and give him a tap, and then see what does he do next. Okay, and then if he gives you what you want, you turn your body away, because you're taking off that confrontation. So it's like if I'm being yelled at and I get the point, I'm like, look, I get it. You don't need to yell at me anymore, and they just stop yelling at me. Right? Like, everything's resolved. That's the same thing for Blue.
Okay.
I like that you use no words, so that was good. We don't ever use sit, stay down, come, place, or any of that stuff with this exercise, because that's obedience. Obedience is physical control. Right now we're looking for mental control. We're wanting him to stop that territorial behavior. We're wanting him to chill out and be relaxed. And right now, because there was a couple of overhits. He's still, I'm assuming, standing in that same spot.
He's laying down now. Do you want to try to show him? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, he's in a relaxed down. So that's good. Um, do you know what would trigger him?
If she were to stand up.
Yeah, if she were to move. Okay. So we're gonna test that out.
Okay.
Okay. And you're, are you at 35? Well, we're gonna test that out if she would like to help us test that out.
She's up.
Okay. Ed, has his posture changed?
He's his head is lifted and he's watching her again, and he's starting to pant a little more.
Okay. Let's just have her walk in that space there, and just keep the camera on blue, and we'll have her just walking where you are, just like in that little space, to see if he shifts at all. Good. All right, I see a shift here. Is that because I see her shadow?
Yeah, she moved a little bit more towards where the camera is, and so he kind of moved in that direction as well.
And I'm holding the camera, so it may be because she's
Yeah.
coming back and forth to me.
Okay. So that this is all good. This is nothing out the ordinary. Did his mouth close, or is he still panting?
His mouth was closed.
Okay, so that movement has caused a little bit of tension, right? That's all normal. Like, remember, closed mouth isn't anything bad. It's what does he do after he closes his mouth. I can see he's a little bit more on his haunches here.
Yeah, he's a little tense.
Okay, let's go ahead and have her sit down again. All right. All right, we'll go ahead and just sit down. We're gonna talk a little bit more, and then we're gonna try something else. All right. Questions so far about any of this stuff?
No. I don't correct him obviously then for like him just watching her like intently or anything?
Unless there was something that followed. If he started
Okay.
to growl, move his, curl his lips or show teeth, or anything like that where it's escalating, right? Now,
Right.
we shouldn't see this, but I want you to be prepared in case it were to happen. Is so like going back to earlier when I said he was already behind the threshold, and I said tap him, and he ran forward, and I said he was still engaged with the door. That's why when he tapped him, he charged because he wanted to do it, right?
Right.
It's possible that, like, let's say your friend is moving and he growls and you tap him, it's possible it could push him forward into the chase. Okay? That's why we have the leash on, that's why we have the muzzle on, and that's why I'm telling you this, so that this way when you jump into it, you're already kind of thinking this could happen, right? So then you can go right into addressing it, which whenever I'm expecting something, you'll always see me with my hands on the dial, ready to turn it up if needed.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And your first instinct should always be to intercept, to be, so, like if you were to bring your guest in, it would be you and your guest behind you.
Right. So me between him and her all the time.
Correct. Okay. While we're building, like, comfort and getting them used to people coming over and stuff, and you don't always have to be in between them, but if you see blue charge, your first thing should be, remoting, turning it up, and getting between with forward body language.
Okay.
Okay. Because what you're doing is you're confronting him back. Right? So he's charging at the guest saying, bark, 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 snap, 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 get out of my house. And when you
Right.
get in front of your guest with the remote, you're biting him back, and that forward body language is saying, you respect my guest, you need to back off. So you're just
Okay.
using the same body language, you're using the same communication, and you're claiming your guest, and you're saying, this is my guest, you need to back off. So, I feel like there's a scene in the Lion King where, like, did you see Lion King?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like there's a scene where, like, the dad, like, jumps in between, or somebody jumps in between to protect from an attacker.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
That's what you're doing. Okay? But you're doing it via remote, and you're using that as your physicality to back the dog off and say you need to stop this and surrender. Okay?
Right.
And that's why you're having your hand ready on that dial, because 35 might provoke, and if I need to just stop it, or as I'm trying to get there, I'm trying to disengage it, I'm just turning it up as I'm tapping, and I don't care what he does. I just need him to stop the behavior, and he might yip because maybe you went to 85 and he turns around and runs off. Because you're just trying to stop the charge. We're not caring about how does he feel afterwards. Okay?
Okay.
Because if you try to, some of my clients they get too focused on, well, if I correct my dog too harshly, then they'll never like the guest. I'm like, that's not true.
Right.
That's not true at
Okay.
all. Because if you're trying to play everything like perfectly, you're gonna make your life extra hard. Okay, make it simple. Because he already doesn't like people coming over as it is. He turned
Now
away.
he's whining.
He's whining. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll ignore the whining for now. Because it's nothing. It's not like an agitated type of whine. Okay.
Right.
Um, so if he ends up running off into another room and doesn't come out for the rest of the day, I ignore him. He'll recover. He'll get over it. No big deal. And then you try again the next time. Okay. If anything, he's just gonna think to himself, I really don't want to charge because this thing goes up pretty high. Okay.
Right.
Questions about any of that stuff?
Um. No, I don't think. Do you have questions?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
So what I was thinking of trying out here is guest gets up, moves across the living room, and goes down that hallway.
Okay. Do I stay between her and him the whole time?
Here, because I'm present, we'll just observe. But I'll have you have your hand on that dial. I mean, you can even put it to 45 preemptively if you like. So you're already much higher, and she's just gonna
Do I
move.
hold the leash?
No,
No.
unless she would like you to. I mean, I go by the guest.
How are you feeling, guest?
I'm fine.
Good.
She's coming back.
Okay. Good. And then go ahead and have a seat again. All right, and we're gonna relax again. All right.
That was really good.
That was really good.
So, I noticed a couple of things. What did you see?
He kept his eyes on her the whole time.
Yeah.
He also kind of snapped. To me, he was like snapping his head a little bit.
Yeah, he was. He snapped his head on the return.
Right.
Okay, that's normal, because you have a nervous dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so the best form of training is always organic training, right? And we're trying to make it as organic as possible by like sitting down and resting everybody in a relaxed state, because for nervous dogs, when everything is calm, it's fine, and then when somebody moves, there's a trigger.
Right.
Okay. Now, right now, everything is still fresh in his head, which is why it's easier for him to like just hold this calmness here. You can ignore that for now. But like, let's say your friend you guys are just hanging out for 2 hours, right? And he's in that same spot, and then she gets up. That's where you would expect to see a trigger.
Yeah.
That's kind of maybe where it was at the time.
Yeah. That one previous incident we had with one of our friends, it was when we were sitting on the porch, and it was a pretty good long time that we were sitting there, and then I went to stand up and he went for her, so there was like a energy change after a good period of time.
Right. And becoming sensitive to those things, where it's like, because I get it all the time, like, Jesse, we were just sitting down and someone stood up and the dog bit him. And I go, yeah, because one, that's nervous dog. Two, that's a change in energy.
Right.
For the dog. We're just so used to that stuff. So here, what I would do is whenever you have a friend come over is just let them know, like, hey, we're working with Blue, blah, 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 blah. If you're going to get up and move, let me know.
Okay.
Right? So you can be a step ahead. Okay? So you're always trying to be a step ahead. And as like nonchalantly as possible. Like you're just looking at them through your peripheral range, like just kind of passively looking and observing and stuff like that. Um, and it's not like super obvious where you stand up with the remote with your hand on the on the dial, because he will
Yeah.
learn those things. Okay, he will learn those things absolutely. But you're trying to recreate normalcy. Just moving around. Guests are going to get up and all that stuff. Uh, even jumping up and randomly clapping. That's a big one. Like just big, sudden, loud movements um, tend to be hard for nervous dogs. Um, right now, we're keeping it easy, and he's staying where he is, right? But he's not under any kind of command. So it can be one of two things. One, he's not interested in meeting your guests quite yet. Okay.
Nothing personal.
Yeah. Or two, because we put him under so much pressure, he's just because we had to correct him a couple times and he yipped a couple times.
Yeah.
He's more cautious at the moment, and kind of like holding still, and the whining could potentially be him wanting to be in the social space.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so technically, if your threshold is that first entryway there, and let's say you just command more space and you send them back a little further, technically when your guest crosses into that space, Blue could greet them.
Okay.
Okay. Because now they're entering into his space. So what you did was you claimed that kind of opening, that hallway, that entranceway, and you
Yeah.
told Blue like, hey, like this is my space. I don't care where you go, but I need you to get out of here and go chill out, right? And then that becomes his space in that living room area. And then you bring in your guest that if he's interested, he could technically go up to approach them and sniff them and like say hi or whatever. So then, because you're trying to build comfort and trust with Blue with the people you have over. Okay. Now in the beginning, it could be this. It could be complete disinterest, where he's like, "Nah, I'm good. Like, I don't mind them being here, but I don't want to be in their space either." And then maybe they come over like 20 times, and on the 20th time, he's like, "You know what? Let me check you out." Right? And he might try to smell them. Even if he goes to smell them, they don't touch him, they don't talk to him, they don't look at him, they still just ignore him.
Okay.
Because many people make that mistake where they're like, "Oh, your dog's sniffing me," and they go to pet them, and the dog flips out.
Right.
Okay, because the dog is just starting to learn. He's just starting to think like, "Who are you? Let me get to meet you or whatever." Um, and then you might find that evolves into he goes up to the guest and pushes their hand up because he wants them to pet him. Okay, now he's initiating physical contact and saying, "Please pet me," right? And that's the social aspect of Blue coming out, which is what we would be looking for.
Okay.
Now, it's rare, but it can happen. Where I'll get a dog that's antisocial, they'll start to open up and they'll start to like tell the guests to pet them, and then like after like a couple of weeks when their confidence gets up or goes up, then they'll tell the guests to pet them, but then they'll start growling at them.
Okay.
Okay, so because what it is when a dog bats at your hand to pet them, he's telling you to do something. Okay, he's saying pet me.
Right.
Okay, it's not a please, it's a pet me. So of course, when we want an antisocial dog to be social, we reward that because they're coming out of their shell. But what can happen is they sway too much over, and then they become a bully, and they start
Right.
to like say pet me, and then they start to growl at the guests, and then we create another problem. Okay, so if that happens, we would correct them, and then I would start ignoring him whenever he would tell a guest to go pet him, and then I
Okay.
would put it on more so. He's fighting a little bit on the guest terms, like they call him over and they pet him because they want to, and then they'll tell him like get out of here, and then he has to leave. Okay,
Okay.
so let's say typically this moves a lot faster with people he's already seen a bunch of times. He just never got like opened up to them. Like I'll have people say like, I have my brother come over, and he's been over 100 times. My dog always barks at him and never lets him pet him. And then as soon as they do this exercise, the dog warms up to that person like immediately, because he's already seen that person a bunch of times.
Right.
It's just the dog was always suspicious or territorial.
Sorry.
No,
Somebody just came.
that's fine. Questions about any of this?
I I have a question, which is historically, so this, he hasn't really had a visitor in a while,
Uh-huh.
but what he has done is approach. So like Danny would be sitting there
Mm-hmm.
and he'll approach Danny. And even if Danny was just sitting there, he'll like muzzle punch her or like paw her. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like he comes in running hot. He comes in, I'll say strong, and like basically says like, "Who are you?" kind of.
Right.
So that's what's hard to me to read is like, okay, if he's coming in, it seems like he's gonna greet her, but then the muzzle punch or the paw is definitely like to me like a dominance or a claiming gesture or a
Okay.
hurting gesture.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's not a healthy one for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I think so. It's the energy in which he's coming in with.
Okay.
Because I think you said something along the lines of like he's coming in hot to greet, and
No, he doesn't charge. He's not charging. Like
okay.
he'll come in. I guess maybe I have to see it again, right? Because it's been a while, but it might be like a nervous. He's coming in curiously nervous.
Uh-huh.
If that makes sense.
Sure. So then, it's what I would call an on the fence behavior.
Okay.
So, like, let's say closing of the mouth, right? So he went from panting to closing his mouth when she was moving,
Yes.
but nothing happened, right? But we know there was tension there, okay?
Okay.
So that's what I would call an on the fence behavior because it can go either way. He could either not care or he could care. And the only way to really find out is that's why I said I had her walk through and walk around because I wanted to see what would he do with that. Okay? So let's say he starts to open up and then you see where he walks up to someone. He's muzzled, he's got the leash on, all that stuff, so we're not worried about a bite or anything. And then I just observe, what are you going to do? And maybe he does go to like punch him with his muzzle. You would remote him. Okay? And then he might run away from the person. It's fine. I just ignore him and leave him alone. So he just learned if I try to do this to them, I'll get corrected. Okay? And then maybe he sees that person 5 more times. He wants nothing to do with them. And then on the 5th time, he's like, well, let me go try greeting them again. And he comes over, but he's very polite. And then maybe he rolls on his back for them. Right? And then whenever we see something like that, whenever we see something that's invitational to the dog, if the person is going to interact, it's always with a very chill, laid back, low energy.
Okay.
Because like they'll see like the back, the dog was in the back and oh my god, right, all that stuff. That could trigger something.
Okay.
But it wasn't the touch; it was the energy that the person brought in, right? So at this stage, it's watching to see what does the door exercise kind of resolve, which is his energy. He's calmed down. He's more passive. Then we go, how does that passiveness and removing the territorial behavior or that mindset from his brain affect his behavior? And then, because there's not been people, he's not going to be perfectly social. He's going to have some quirks that I'm always observing Blue. So like, let's say my guest gets up, walks around the corner, and Blue watches him, and I'm sitting there looking at him, and then he gets up and starts to walk around the corner. Then I get up and go, what are you going to do? But I'm not stopping him, right? Because once they're within the home and past that threshold, technically he's free to walk around.
Okay.
He's free to coexist. You're just trying to see, like, why did you go around the corner behind my guest?
It's kind of like the cat. It's like as long as you're coexisting with the guest, you're all right.
Yes. And you can go ahead and give him a tap here. Yeah, we'll see what he does. That's fine. Okay.
I don't know if you can hear it, but he is still like crying.
What's your number?
37. But it's like a constant crying, like whining at us right now.
I heard some, but definitely right there I was starting to escalate. Okay. We'll let it go for now because it's nothing like it's not like a bad like aggressive type whine.
Okay.
I think it's like him wanting to be in the social space. But yeah, we'll leave it for now. But if it gets too whiny or too loud, you can correct him for that.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions?
Do you have any questions, Danny? Like,
I guess one of my questions is like, for instance, my brother has a daughter, like my niece. Let's say if she's a 3-year-old. Let's say if we weren't planning on this or anything, but she were to come over. Um, how do you handle like an unpredictable crying child per se with a dog like this? Like in that situation, should I just put him away and not even trust him at all, or?
Well, me personally, I just get rid of the child because I don't like kids.
Me too.
uh,
well,
Unfortunately, we can't get rid of her. She's already here.
so what I would do is you have a few options. Is how's the child?
She's 3.
She's 3. Okay, so she's little. Um, unless someone is going to be actively in charge of Blue or actively always aware of what he's doing, the easiest solution to that would be, of course, to remove him
Okay.
with the e-collar. And because, like, let's say he hears her running around and stuff, and maybe that triggers him.
Right.
You still need to correct him, right? So that we're not, and it would be super easy because it's just like shut up. Like I don't care what you do in the room, just shut up, right?
Right.
So that this way, because if anybody's gonna be, if you're gonna be distracted, or if there's not gonna be complete attention, or not complete attention, but like awareness of what he's doing and like where the child is in conjunction to him, that's just the safest bet. Okay. The other thing would be, like maybe in the corner, of the room, I put him all the way at one corner and on the place or whatever. Like so, you've calmed them down and all that stuff. You put them on place, so now you have the control, and
Right.
then it's just watching or being mindful of the little girl, and probably doesn't understand distance quite yet.
Right.
But whenever she gets 8 feet or 6 to 8 feet of Blue's bed, I redirect her. Because now then Blue would see two things. Yes, he's under control, but then he also sees that you're not allowing that energy into his space. Okay, because
Right.
for Blue, like let's say he nipped at her, it's not because he's aggressive. It's because he's correcting her.
Right.
Like
And I
dogs.
think they've met when Blue was a puppy, and she was even younger than she is now. When she did run or squeal and play, like he was not aggressive with her by any means, I wouldn't say, but he was kind of like nudging at her a little bit too much. He was hurting her like a little
Oh,
sheep.
oh,
Like,
okay, sure, yeah. So the other thing would be is like if you know or have not ever seen him, be aggressive towards her, and you're trying to see how does he feel about her, and you go like kind of like with the cat, like just coexistence,
yeah.
is you can correct the nudging, right?
Okay.
And that would just be a tap whenever you see him thinking about it or going to approach her, or when he's actively doing it. So then he's like, okay, I can't hurt her,
Okay.
right? Because that if you're picking up signs of like I think he's hurting her, then of course that's his breed. Is that you just correct that to teach him like you don't hurt her, okay?
Okay.
But I would still be very mindful. I don't care what the dog is. I don't care if it's a golden retriever. I don't care if people have never seen aggression from the dog for 10 years. I always tell them, kids and dogs always attended by an adult, never left unattended. And I put always boundaries to things. One thing is that children will teach the way they treat the dogs within their family. They'll treat their friends' dogs the same way.
Yeah, that's actually what I was gonna say. Is she owns 2 big huskies that she like lays on and pulls their hair a little bit, and I mean they're wonderful with her. So my concern is that she'll see him and want to do the same things, but he clearly doesn't know her and would be
Correct.
okay with them.
And that would, if she did that and he nipped or bit at her, that again is not aggression. That's a correction.
Right.
Because he just sees her as a puppy, and he's like, we
Right.
bite our puppies, okay. I would suggest that you also, you educate her and you teach the difference of like, hey, you need to respect dog space. What she does with her own dogs, I don't like it, but that's her own family's dogs, okay?
Right.
What I care about is how is she going to perceive other people's dogs, because throughout, 10 years of doing this, I've heard several stories of people's kids playing with the dog's jowls and all that crap. Then they go to their
Right.
friend's house and they get bit. Okay?
Yep.
So it would benefit her to learn that rule with Blue and then your other dog as well. Even if your other dog may be completely fine with her, because you're thinking just for her best, in her best interest of, if we allow her to do the same stuff here with even just one of our dogs, that's now another dog that she thinks that's how they're treated or to be treated, and will apply that later on in life, and it could get her hurt physically.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Blue better than I do. Okay. Um, I always opt on the side of caution. But the only way to know how he feels about things is to experiment. Okay. That's what the muzzle is for. That's what the e-collar is for. That's what the leash is for. If things ever go south, it's okay. You just have to correct it, get him to disengage, and then keep him, ideally, if you can, within the context. Okay, so like let's say the little girl's walking around, he goes to hurt her, you correct him, right, and he runs out the room. I would grab him and bring him back in the room in that scenario, because it wasn't anything terribly bad. It was just like, a light tap, and he just overcompensated. But you're teaching him, like, the tap wasn't because you're in the same room with her. The tap was because you tried to hurt her.
So focusing him on the action and not like a space thing again.
Correct, because the dogs, it takes several reps for him to rationalize, oh, the tap wasn't because of her getting into my space or anything like that, or her being present, or me being next to her. It's because I tried to hurt her like a sheep. And then he'll think, okay, cool, so we can coexist. I just don't try to hurt you.
Right.
Okay.
So it'd be the same thing with the cat then. Like it's been really good with the cat being able to walk into a room and Blue like lays down and stuff. But as soon as the cat springs off or does whatever a cat does, then Blue will kind of take off after her.
Mm-hmm.
So if I tap him, he'll run completely into a different room, or he'll run up to me and stuff. But if he runs into a different room, I should bring him back into the room again.
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. And I bring him back into the room with wherever the cat is.
Okay.
Okay, because he went into pursuit, you stopped it, and he's like, maybe I should have nothing to do with the cat, but you're trying to make coexistence. Okay, and then what I would do, because he's got to get over that part, which is going to be hard for him, that sudden movement, because one, he's already a nervous dog, but then two, prey drive kicks in or whatever, is that's going to be a difficult thing to like get out of him. So the more you just keep him in that context and let the cat be a cat, the faster he should get over that impulsive, lunge. And like right now, like you see how he's in that resting state.
Yeah.
So like if the cat took off and bolted, like if he lifted his head or he couldn't even like just like went up real quick, like I'm not too worried about that. That's already him going like, all right, like sure, because he can't help that part. Okay?
Right.
Because he's reactionary. Something happened, I do something. It's what does he do? Does he continue with it, right? And does he go back and lay back down again? Because then that's just complete disinterest.
Right.
And then I see that for a period of time before, you come to a point where you may trust him, sans muzzle, whatever, and then he's fine with the cat.
Okay.
Okay? Other questions?
You have any questions, Mom? No, I don't think so.
I'm actually pleasantly pleased with them that Danny can sit on the couch and it's nice.
Let's try having her move one more time. Oh. Good.
The eyeballs definitely follow.
Yeah. That's all normal for now. He's just got to get used to like that there's no threat from her, that after he's seen her a few times, all this should start to like go away. The next thing would be, I wouldn't do this quite yet. I would just get him used to just having someone present in the home that's outside of the home. And then like the next thing would be like the guest walking by him, like right within that space. But I'd give it, a few more repetitions, getting a good idea of like what his behavior's like. if we do have any of those nervous responses still, and why do they trigger. But this is good for the first go.
Okay.
Okay, so now, how do we get our guest out of the house? Like,
Sure. So
she just,
what you could
she
do
just walks?
is, like, Hannah could get up and then go between. So like she'd walk towards that wall there, and kind of face towards this way, and then uh, so go ahead and turn side to your left, Hannah. There you go. Because you don't want to be right in his face because he's not doing anything quite yet, right? But you're in position in case he does, and then your guest would get up and then can go through that space, and you're just kind of through your peripheral range watching his body language. Yeah, like that.
Okay.
Okay. So you're always just putting yourself, in a position where you're there, but at the same time, when you give him that sideways body language and stuff, you're telling him that you're giving trust, and like he's not gonna act out, but then you
Right.
also, it's the trust. Like I look at it two ways. It's trust in the dog's gonna behave, but then trust that I can make the dog behave if something happens.
Right.
Okay, it's
Okay.
both those things together, um, and then he should be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, in a situation like this too, like let's say she was staying over for like a longer time, and we watched a movie or something, and I didn't want to have eyes on him the whole time.
Sure.
If I put him in a place in front of us, is that like a good
Sure.
solution?
Yeah,
Okay.
because you got visual now, right? And
Right.
like, let's say your friend's here, Blue's over there. There's at least a 15, 20 foot gap,
Right.
right? Like you're using the space to your advantage, and the fact that he's in front of you. So then, if your guest's like, "Hey, I'm gonna use the bathroom," you're like, "Okay," and you have your hand on the remote. You're looking at Blue, or you're watching him through your peripheral range. Your guest gets up, and then you just have to watch for when your guest re-enters.
Okay. Yep. Just
Okay.
being aware of like those energy changes.
Right. So if you hear the door open and close, then you hear like the refrigerator door open and then they close, and you hear the footsteps, right? You're just becoming more aware of your environment, which is healthy just in general, because this is
Yeah.
why people get mugged and all that stuff. There's a news thing, it's from a few years ago, where they interview a professional thief, and they're standing outside of a train station, and he's pointing out everybody he would mug, and they
As
were on their.
everyone with like headphones in and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So awareness is important in general. And then what happens is you just become aware, and it's just like it's like another skill that you have. Like for me, I'm very aware of my surroundings because I work with dogs, you know, and
Yeah.
more so than like everybody else. I'm like, oh, did you hear that? And everybody's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, that this just happened. Like, no, we didn't even hear that. I'm like, well, you should have.
Yeah. My
So,
mom's the same way actually, because like she works with little kids, so like she'll be
oh
like, "Oh,
yeah.
I heard something," like because she has to pay attention all the time. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
so-
Because yeah, it's funny because with kids, I think something about like when it's really quiet is when they're
then it's
getting
an
in
issue.
trouble. Yeah. So absolutely. Okay. So good job. Um, practice this as much as you want,
Okay.
and then press it. And then just start using that brain and just think to yourself like, um, how can I utilize the space to my advantage? Do I need to make him go back more? That's perfectly fine. You make the rules, okay?
Okay.
You make the rules that make you feel better, make you feel the most in control. Blue don't care, okay?
Right.
And then like let's say he's in the way or something of your guest or like the pathway, then you could like call him over and then like sit him somewhere or whatever so that they go through and all that stuff, and
Okay.
then over time you should see that coexistence behavior and not have to be so like uptight about it.
All right.
Right.
There was one last question is, so my friends have actually invited me and they really are pushing me to bring Blue. I've basically told them no, but to like this Halloween party thing where there
Mhm.
would be like kids and it would be in an open kind of field, and I wasn't sure if it was like a good time for us to be doing that since there will be kids there. If there weren't kids, I feel like I'd be comfortable. But just with so many little hands and everything, I don't know if it'd be like a good idea to even put him in a situation like that.
Mhm. I use every opportunity. However, if you're going to the Halloween party to have a good time and not stress out about your dog, then I suggest you don't do it. Okay?
Right.
If
Okay.
it's like yeah, I'm gonna go and enjoy myself, but I want to use this opportunity to see where my dog is at, then I say go for it. You know,
Oh,
that's the biggest thing. Like I tell everybody, push as much as you want, as much as you can, but do be honest with yourself. And it's like, nah, Halloween's only once a year, and I want to enjoy it. Then by all means, go ahead. Otherwise, if you don't mind it, and they're inviting him, and you tell him like, well, he's gonna be on a muzzle, he's gonna be on a leash, and what we'll do is we'll cover the down command, and then you'll have stationary control, so you won't
okay.
be so dependent on the placemat. Or you could even just bring a towel with you
And
and
put them in
and
place.
place them. Yeah, so you have things at your disposal. And who knows? Like maybe he's doing really well. And then, I mean, because we still have. I mean, we're in September. We got like what 6?
A couple sessions.
Yeah, we got like we got some lessons there where I could even go over like how I would introduce socializing him to people he doesn't know. Now,
Okay.
the one big variable here will be that there's gonna be face masks and costumes and stuff.
Right.
Is that if he were to react negatively, I actually wouldn't hold it against him. Because like my pit, like, and my dogs on Halloween were like, "What the hell is all this crap?" Like, we don't,
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So, but some dogs don't care. So it's just I don't know what blue is, but that's a possibility for you. So,
Okay. All right.
all right,
We'll work on that. Yeah.
very good. So good job today. If you have any questions, you let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in a week.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.